Welcome everybody to the final seminar of ID480 Design Management course. Today we have with us Aslı Deniz Özakar from Appcent Design, who is going to give us a seminar titled Service Design in Different Organizations. Just as a brief introduction, Aslı will introduce herself probably during the presentation, but still, she is the co-founder of the Appcent Design, which is a digital design agency that is focused on human-centered design service design projects. Also, she happens to teach our service design elective course. Maybe some of you are getting her class as well, her course as well. So I'm leaving the floor to Aslı. Thank you very much again for coming here, becoming a guest lecturer for us.
Thank you for inviting me. Hello, everyone. I'm a bit excited. I hope it goes smoothly. So, like Yekta presented me, I'm now the co-founder of Appcent Design. But I would like to go a bit back and give you a brief intro about myself and why I'm talking about what I'm talking today. So, I'm also a graduate of METU Industrial Design. I graduated in 2008, and then I studied Design for Interaction, which was a joint program given by METU and TU Delft universities back then. Then I started my career in Turkcell. Then I moved on to Comensis, which is also it's not a small agency, but it's a digital transformation agency. Giving design and development services to their clients. After that, I turned to freelancing, which lasted about 5 years. And then in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I founded Appcent Design. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing to start a company when everyone was working remotely, but that's another discussion. So why I'm talking about service design in different organizations is I have been a designer in many different contexts. I have been part of a big corporation, which has a centralized design team with many stakeholders in the projects. I have been in a small agency with flexible design teams in which we served our clients with design services. I have been a freelancer, which gave me opportunity to be part of many different design teams, both small and big corporations. And I have the opportunity to see also many different industries, like games, banking, insurance. I even did a casino app for one of my clients, so it gave me a great horizon to see things. And finally, of course, now I have my own design consultancy firm, so I'm offering design as a service to my clients. So I believe that I can talk about how service design or design in general is handled in different organizations. And please interrupt me during my presentation if you have any questions, by the way. So after giving the brief intro about who am I know the people taking my course or who already took the course service design have a general idea, but let's talk about what service design is very briefly. So basically, a service is something that you offer to your clients, and in the end, they either get value or they pay you something in return of the service they are getting from you. So it can be a haircut you get from the hairdresser. It can be a banking service that is offered to you via very different channels. It can be a simple app that you use to rent scooters. Everything can be counted as a service, and service design is basically a design process that is pushing the designers to trial and error and to testing and offering a very human-centered process to the design problems at the hand. So it can either be creating a new service or improving an existing service so that it's more useful, desirable, or maybe it makes more money for the business. So depends on where you're coming from. And you can see some very general definitions I put to the famous like service design founders, you may call them. So, you know, it's basically a more of a business-centered approach to design, because in the end, it's not only about making a useful or making something that your user is gonna like. It's also creating value for the business as well. So you need to gain money and in the end with your designs. So how do service designers work in the projects? Like in the course, we are creating a brand new service from scratch. So we are starting from the very basics on understanding the users, creating an ecosystem, creating a user journey on this new service. But in real life, of course, not all the projects are about designing a new service from scratch. And you'll see that also in real life, it's impossible to design a new service in 3 months because it requires a lot of stakeholders. It requires a lot of business decisions, and it also requires a lot of development cycles as well. So how, like, you graduate from this school and you start working as a service designer, what kind of projects are you going to see in real life? So you can see projects around services. So usually there's an existing service, and there are projects that requires new developments around the service. So let's say you're already offering a banking service to your clients, but you want to offer a banking service to small business owners specifically. So that's a new service around this existing service. So you're still going to use the existing banking services, products, banking services, call centers, and stuff like that. And maybe you'll also get some data from the existing banking service. But you'll work on the delivery of this new project as well. So you work part of a project or a delivery team. And as a service designer, you help design prototype parts, or you provide insight to how to approach this design process to achieve desired outcomes in a measurable way. So you'll see that the services, again, in real life are very interconnected. So you're going to design a service, it's maybe part of an existing service, or the new service will impact existing multiple services. So you'll see how they will work together and stuff like that. So real life projects are more complicated because you need to first understand the stakeholders existing in the project, their needs, and you'll see that as a designer, you will kind of be the naysayer in the project because you'll always talk in the user's needs, because you will be the only one in the project usually defending the users and their needs. And you'll see that every stakeholder in the business have their other goals, like they want to increase sales, they want to push marketing to the users and stuff like that. And you'll always be the one defending the user's needs in real life projects, basically. So, of course, in real life as well, you can be shaping a whole new service, especially if you're working with a startup. You'll see that, you know, maybe they're in the MVP process of, they have this idea, they want to do something, and maybe you'll design with them this whole new service from scratch. So at this step, you're going to see, again, you know, what's existing in the market, what's not working for them, how can you improve it with your new service? Or maybe there's an existing service that is not working very well, and the company wants to cancel that out, which happened to me when I was working in Turkcell. So they had this customer service customer service app that was used both by the call center agents and both by the shops. So it had this very wide user range, and it also the users use this service from different devices and with different needs. So it was very difficult to shape and to change, because it required a lot of people, it required a lot of change, and it also caused a lot of no from the users as well, because they already learned the existing ways and they didn't want it to change, because it's very difficult to educate them for this new service. So when you're shaping a whole new service, you need to think about how it's going to affect all these different parties as well as a designer. And you need to convince all these different people, even the users, although it's going to benefit them in the long run. Or it can be just a simple project on how something could work better. Maybe there's also already a service. Maybe you want to reduce the call center time, waiting times. Maybe you want to reduce the steps in an e-commerce service. Maybe you want the users to buy something more quickly. Or maybe you want to change the product page in the e-commerce app, and you want to make it better and you want to make it more reachable. So that's also it. Although it seems small, it's still the same process for every little design problem. So you first start with the research, you understand what's on hand, then you ideate around this newfound pains or gain areas. You ideate around it, you create a prototype, you test it with your users, and then you finally implement that solution. I'm always talking about digital services, by the way, because that's all professional experience I have. So I don't really know about product service systems. So if you have any questions or anything about that, I'm not really knowledgeable on that. So yeah, these are the different kinds of projects that you can be involved in when you're working as a service designer. So now I'm going to talk about how design operations are handled in different companies. So like I said, I started in a pretty large company, Turkcell. And back then, the design team in Turkcell was centralized. So we had this design manager, and we always worked with other designers in the team. But now we see very different models and very different design operations in different companies. Also with startup companies growing big, like Airbnb, like Spotify, they also introduced this new design operation models because of the need to be fast and to deliver high quality results with this pace, basically. Because you'll see that the big companies, the main problem with big companies is because they are big and because there are so many people involved in all the projects, the decision-making process and the implementation process are rather small. So you are sometimes very late to the party when you're in a big corporation, which happened in Turkcell a lot. Back then, Foursquare was really popular, and they wanted to introduce this local version of it. But by the time that project was completed, people were already over Foursquare. So they didn't care about the existing service, and they didn't care about what Turkcell was offering back then. So you need to be really fast-paced to be part of this changing industry and changing tastes of people, especially in the digital platforms, because it's the likes of the people are changing quite often. The apps we are using become I don't know, like you don't want to even look at them. And my very personal example, which I lived quite recently, is before I got pregnant, I was using Sketch and Zeppelin as a main design tool, and they were quite popular. Then I stopped designing for like 7 months, And by the time I got back, no one talked about them anymore. And it was all about Figma. So even the tools are changing a lot. So companies need to keep up with that all the time. So how does design operations handled in companies? There are three ways companies are handling it. These are not like very straightforward ways. Sometimes companies are applying hybrid design operations as well. So the first way is centralized. What I mean is this: there is this design team in your company, this core design team, which has a team lead. And all the design needs are coming to this team, and the designers are working together. They are making decisions together, and then they deliver the results. The decentralized model is it became popular after Spotify offered this agile team working methodology, in which rather than designers working together among themselves, the designers are separated to different teams. So the designers are not working with other designers. They are working with developers, product owners, or business owners, and they work in a more hybrid environment, basically. And the last model is the flexible one. The flexible one is where the design team grows and shrinks by need. So I'm going to talk about them in detail. So like I said, this is the first model I worked in. There's usually in this model, there's this decision-making key individuals in the team. So in my case, that was the team lead. So anything I design, I need her approval to deliver it to the development team. So even if it's a minor page, it needed to be approved by my team lead so that the developers can work on it. So usually the design team in the centralized model, they work closely together and they are usually next to each other. So everyone knows what everyone is doing. And sometimes there are even multiple designers working in the same project. And the designers are working in multiple projects as well. I remember a time I worked on 7 different projects at the same time. So for me, this model has a lot of cons. But the pros, let's talk about the good stuff first. So of course, it offers a focused vision across all projects. There are very, very well-defined roles on the team. Like I said, usually big corporations are working on this model. This model gives them a chance to have very specialized people in the team. You don't need unicorn designers in this model. You can have a UX writer, you can have a UX researcher doing only research, you can have a UX designer, you can have an interaction designer, you know, you can have all these different roles doing very specialized stuff. And of course, since all the team is working together harmoniously, there is reduced internal conflict within the team. But what about the cons? Of course, in this model, there's a lot of bureaucracy. Like in my case, I needed approval of my team lead all the time. And this bureaucracy also means loss of time, loss of valuable time of the designer, basically. Because instead of solving a design problem and giving it to the delivery team and the delivery team implementing it fast enough, now I have to go through these approval processes. And it sometimes meant the approval of my team leads, like her manager, and even the person above her. So for the designer, this means a lot of email chains, a lot of meetings, and basically a lot of time spent not designing. And it causes creative impediments, which is a red flag for a creative design team, because you are working with the same people and because you are going through this approval of the same people in your design process. In the end, as a designer, you know what they are liking and what they're approving, and you are basically censoring yourself in your designs, and which is causing a lack of creativity in your designs. In the end, you know what your manager will say about your designs, you know how developers will talk about your designs, because you are always working with the same team. So you're not creative enough at the end. And it also creates silos. What silos mean is there is a friction within the teams, because the design team is not working together with the development team. When something goes wrong in the project, these teams tend to put the blame on the other team. Let's say, you know, something is not delivered on time. The development team tends to say, yeah, because the designers didn't give us enough time to deliver it. Or when something goes wrong, they tend to say, you know, oh, the designers didn't do that correctly. Or didn't you check it before? Stuff like that, which is one of my biggest reasons why I wanted to leave this big corporation as a designer, because I noticed that in the end, I spent a lot of time thinking about the politics on how I'm gonna convince people that my designs are gonna work. And I realized that I started not putting the users first, because when I put the users first, that caused a lot of arguments with other teams, which was very tiring for me in the end. So I wanted to leave this big corporation. By the way, this was a lot of time ago, so maybe Turkcell is not working the same way as it did. This was a lot of time ago, but being in a centralized team was very demotivating for me as a designer back then. So the next model is the decentralized model. In the decentralized design teams, the designers are given to different teams. So like I said, this is the Spotify model. So let's say one designer is responsible for the designs of the playlist function. The other designer is responsible for the banners of the homepage. The other designer is responsible about the daily suggestions, stuff like that. You know, so they all have different responsibilities, and they're all working in different teams. This is how Spotify is handling things. So although there is a core design team, and although there is a core design management in the company, the team members and their daily activities are changed in this model. So this works really well for the companies, and after Spotify, I think now even Facebook is working in this model with their designers, because it helps foster trust and collaboration across departments. So now everyone is working on the same function, and this is also what service design is. It only works if every stakeholder is on the same page, and if every stakeholder in the project is trying to create value for their users. It doesn't work if there's a friction between the teams. So this model dissolves that friction within the teams. It also leads to increased velocity on the business side, because the teams are working together and making decisions together, and they're implementing it directly. There are no hierarchy, there are no like approval chains, there are no emails, there are no meetings to convince people. This core team with their core responsibility knows what they are doing, and they deliver it basically, and they're all running towards the same goal basically. And also it caused increased morale on the worker side, on the designer side, because you know that the team you are working with and the project is going to serve your users best in the end. And that's what's important as a designer for me. But in the although in the slide and in any of the articles you're going to read about this, they don't ever say anything about this model. I think from my personal experience, the downside of this model would be that the responsibility you have in this decentralized model is rather small. So now you don't know what's happening in the whole service, but you are responsible of a very small portion of it. And maybe it also, because all these teams among themselves, also like together as a company, they also need to have a shared goal and shared vision. But I think this model still causes kind of a silo model between the teams, because maybe in between the teams, they don't know what they're doing, or they have different goals among themselves. And also as a designer, working in the same limited functionality and same limited kind of user needs would become like boring in the end, because you're only doing like this small, maybe you are only responsible of the search functionality of a single app, and you want to do more. The solution would be to change designers in time. So maybe, and let's say, because these kind of models are run in an agile methodology, and these kind of deliveries are run in sprints. So maybe they can change designers, let's say after a month or after 2 months or after they complete something, so that they also see new project teams and kind of different things to do. But what I see in a professional life is after a designer has been in a single project and then single responsibility for a long time, that also creates an that also affects their creativity in a wrong way. And there are also flexible design teams, which is helping my company a lot. So because the companies cannot solve all the design problems within their teams always, they either say that some design operations could be centralized, some could be decentralized. But also there are cases that maybe some projects require more designers than the others. Maybe some projects require more different design skills than your team already has. Like, let's say you need an animation designer for this project. You need some graphic designer for this project. Maybe you are only focused on digital design, but for some specific project, you also need printed materials. So you need to be flexible, and that doesn't mean hiring new people, but that is getting help from outside, because you know that your need is for a limited time only. And even some companies don't have an internal design team because design is not affecting their core operations. Maybe this is a transportation company and they only have one app, and they don't have a development team, they don't have a design team. So in that case, in this company, there's a project manager that is working with the internal business owners, and they hire outsource design services from companies like mine. Or, of course, they work with freelance designers, which was also the case in many of the startup projects I have been involved in while I was freelancing. Because when a startup company is just starting their business, they don't hire a lot of people because they don't know if the service or the app or the website they're offering will be a fit to the market. So they try to fix everything with freelancers, with people that hire for a short period of time. And if everything goes well, if they get enough investors, if they see that the users are using their products, and then they go back and they hire new people, or they build their own design team and stuff like that. So again, also in big companies, like Turkcell again, while I was working there, our team was only 7 people. So imagine the size of the operation Turkcell have, and imagine doing it with only 7 people. So what happened is, for every different project, we were working with a different design agency, and the internal design team worked like the coordinator of these projects. They didn't design it themselves most of the time personally, but they helped outsource designers with the business team. So they became kind of like the bridge between the business needs and the designers designing the project, which was also a downside for me in my case, because I wanted to design it myself basically back then. So yeah, this is how design operations are handled in different companies. I'm sure there are new models, better models. I'm always talking about corporate companies. In design agencies, of course, design operations are run quite differently. There's usually a producer in the design agencies. The producer handles everything but design in a design project. So they collect the business needs. They create a beautiful brief for the designers. They make sure that the designers have the right equipment to design this project and stuff like that. And the designers in the small agencies only design for their clients, but they don't have any other responsibilities. So this is basically what I'm going to talk about next. Please interrupt me if you have any questions, by the way. So I'm going to talk about design ops, which is a quite popular theme. I'm sure you are seeing a lot of stuff on the internet about design ops. What is design ops? So the last thing I want to talk about is what is design ops. So design ops is basically it's short for design operations. And the question or where this design ops is coming from is, would you rather have a designer work on reports and budgets or spend their time working in meetings that you want them designing, basically? So you want the designers to spend their time designing. You don't want them spending time in corporate stuff. And that was also one of the problems I had in Turkcell. Like, there were so many emails, so many meetings from morning to evening. I had so little time. I usually spent my evenings or my weekends designing because I didn't have any time during the day. So design ops is coming from the agency model, basically. So you don't want your designers spending time on the business operations, on the workflow operations, but you want them designing. So you have this design ops team that focuses on everything around design. So the first point they are working on is the people operations, because these people are part of a company. So the design ops is offering them career paths. They're offering them growth, like how they're going to work on their careers, what happens, what's the next step, do they need more training to be better at their jobs? These are the stuff they're handling. The design ops people are, again, working on the business operations. So they make sure that they have the right budget for a certain projects. They make sure that the designers are having the right equipment to do stuff. They make sure that the designers are have access to the right software. They make sure that everyone is on the same page during the project. The business needs and the designer's brief is on the same page. They also handle the workflow operations. So they know, they make a plan for the designers, and they kind of work on the prioritization of this work as well. So what comes first, what comes next? They handle these operations as well. And they manage the design project for these, because if you leave it to the designer only, these are all the things that are going to take their time. So now the companies are working on this design ops to increase the efficiency, because like I said, now the industry, the digital transformation projects are really fast paced. So if your competition is doing something and if people are liking it, you need to deal with quite quickly, and you don't want to lose time in the meetings, you don't want to lose time in the decision-making process, but you want to deliver it really fast, and the designers are part of this delivery. And the designers are also part of this decision-making process, because when somebody has an idea, you'll see that in real life, the projects always start with design. The projects never start with development. You are always the first point of contact when someone has an idea, because you are the one understanding this idea, researching around this idea and making it real, and showing people how it will be like if it were real. So it's very important that you have enough time for that, and you don't need to think about other stuff when you have that working at hand. So basically, this is where design ops is coming from. Like I said, the agencies are already doing it. The agencies already have people focuses on everything around design, but it's very difficult for big companies to do that. But now they are using this design ops approach to increase the efficiency of their designers and to reduce the time basically spent on design projects. So yeah, I guess that is it from me. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation, especially showing us how it happens in the digital realm, digital design realm.
Yeah.
So thank you. Okay, if anyone have questions, just raise your hands.
You can also write it in the chat if you don't want to speak out loud.
Funny thing is, Aslı, nearly half of this class wants to be a UX UI designer. So.
I hope I gave enough motivation.
It was a very nice presentation. Thank you. It was really interesting, this type of presentation. I saw it for the first time. Which program are you using?
I use Prezi. I use it for the first time as well. I'm writing it in the chat window. So my friend is working for this company, and that's where she showed it in my class for the first time. And I was really excited. And I thought, this is the opportunity for me to use Prezi for the first time, because now a lot of people will be watching my presentation.
So it works together with Zoom, yes?
Yes.
Somehow.
It has its own add-on that you download to your computer. And from Zoom, you can select Prezi and it works perfectly. So it's quite easy to use. I was scared at first, but it's quite easy to use. And they have an education plan.
That's great.
Not to make an advertisement about it, but you can check it out when you have your edu emails.
Hocam, I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm kind of curious about the public design aspect of service design and how we can interpret, because what I'm thinking is like so many people are taking initiatives to create a public awareness of any kind of subject. And I feel like because of our economy, because of how our country's situations, people who want to do good, they just trying to build their businesses and their services towards that. So how do you think like service designers' role will be in this public design? Because it's also kind of a voluntary thing, but you also need to manage a lot of things. So is it more like do we need to take more like a project manager role as well as a service design role, or can we just like take us apart from the can we just look at it seriously as it's a business?
At the end, it is a business. Even if it's for public needs, you still need to make sure that it survives as its own. Like even if you don't wanna have profit from it, even if it's let's say a service based on people donating stuff, you still wanna make sure that it runs as itself. You still want to make sure that all the actors involved in delivering this service free for public service can do it, and it still survives on its own. So there's still a business side of it that you need to think about, even if you don't want to profit from it. There's always money involved. You either need to collect money from people, or you need money for this service to serve people. There are good examples. I mean, of course, the first thing that comes in mind is the ministries or the municipalities' services. And there are very good examples. There are very good examples of service design that is offered in Turkey as well. That is offered to public. Like this morning, I read news about Istanbul municipalities offering new restaurants around the city that will serve people like low-cost meals. So that is a great example of a service design. I believe that this operation was handled, I don't know how it handled in the municipality, but this is a great service design project, for example, because you need to think about what kind of touch points you're going to offer, how these restaurants would look like, how you're going to reduce the costs so that you can provide cheaper meals to the public. So these are all the problems that you need to solve, and service design is this approach of problem solving, basically. Yeah. So you make a research, you see the ecosystem, you see how you can reduce costs, you see all these opportunity areas, and then you basically design a flow of things, like where the food is coming from, how it's delivered, who will be cooking it, and you still need to pay to the cooks, and you still need to sell it for a small amount so that this whole system runs on its own. So there is always this business side of things that you need to think about. It's not only the public, because like I said, this service needs to survive on its own. There are great examples that companies are doing, like the companies we have that presented in our designathon this year, Fazla Gıda, which is basically collecting this excess food that people are producing, people are throwing away, and they are trying to offer services for this good cause. They're both trying to make money off of it, but they're also offering value to the public. So they're also like, there is a balance. They both profit from it, but they also have kind of a free public service as well. So when you think of service design, even if it's for value only, you still need to think about how the business will be on the back end, basically.
Thank you.
I want to add to this, maybe just saying that there are a lot of business model development tools or methods right now that doesn't regard value only as monetary. They also look at the same time, to environmental and social value as well. So the outcomes are now considered a value, is considered not just monetarily, but in terms of the environment and social as well, which I think makes service design, as Aslı explained, a lot more important, to be able to recognize all the different kinds of values that someone is trying to create, and responding to them properly is also crucial in that sense.
Yeah. People are also paying for that value as well. People are paying for services that in the end don't deliver much, but maybe create a value for them. So there's always value involved.
Thank you, Cem.
I have a question.
Yes.
But we can't hear you properly.
Just a second.
And he's gone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said that there was a lot of cons in working with a bigger company.
I did.
I was wondering, so you are a founder of a company right now. What would you do different when you, or if you become a big company like Turkcell, so that you can eliminate the cons that you have experienced?
Good question. I hope I become as big as Turkcell. I don't see it happening anytime soon, but like I said, the model I was working in Turkcell was a centralized model. So there was a lot of hierarchy, and there were a lot of approval processes involved in the designs. So there was a lot of things that were not designing, basically, in my workday. And that's what's my big con about it. What I would do differently is I would make sure that the designers are designing only and they don't worry about the other stuff. I worry about it as their director, or I hire people to worry about the other stuff for them, so that the only daily job they have is designing. And also, now I'm on the other side of things. Now I'm not designing, but I'm helping designers basically design. What I'm trying to do is I try to make them at ease in the projects, and that's how I'm involved in their projects, rather than being this approval points or an extra step for their designs. I'm trying to be a vessel of, you know, like if they are having problems, I want them to come to me, ask for help, and I want my presence to be helpful for them, not on an observation or judging kind of eyes, but, you know, helping them out if they're struggling in a project, if they have been in a project for too long and they don't feel creative enough. I will put them in a different project. I will change their daily routines, because these are the problems I had as a designer, not only in a big company, but in smaller companies as well. So I'm trying to always enhance their creativity in my own way, because that's, if you lose your creativity and if you don't feel like you are solving users' problems or you are solving valuable problems in the end, I think you lose motivation as a designer. At least that's my personal experience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. No
I
questions.
wanted to ask you one.
Yes.
About, you know, the centralized, decentralized, and flexible design operations, as you showed us, is quite actually different from what I've been teaching these guys about levels of design management. So I wanted to ask some questions about them, if I got them right.
I don't know. Maybe I should have presented to you first.
No, it's completely fine. I mean,
Yeah.
if they want to use it. So I tried to actually understand at what levels do they operate. And I felt like in the centralized design team model, I kind of noticed that your department was only at the operational level, where you were supposed to do designs, but then you also try to undertake the functional role as well. So you were operating, you were both trying to, you know, convince the top management while also trying to do the design projects yourselves.
In the
But
centralized
also,
model.
yeah, but also you end up supervising the external design teams.
Yeah.
So it was like you were trying to operate at all levels. All of you were trying to operate at all levels. So I was wondering, like, and then when you talked about decentralized, I kind of noticed that, well, it's the formation of two different levels. There's a functional level that oversees separate design teams, and then design teams end up designing for themselves. That is what I kind of realized. So I was wondering if you were actually, because you said that in Appcent, you yourself was following a flexible model, but there are certain hierarchies there anyway. I mean, there are certain decisions made by the top management. There are separate teams probably.
Yeah, in the organizational model, in both cases, it's the same. Like in the organizational level, if you see an organization map of these both companies, even in Spotify, you'll see that it's the same. There's still this design manager that is connected to the product team that has another manager on top of it, and this design manager is managing the designers. But on the flexible model, the daily lives of the designers change only. The daily lives of the designers are within their project team. So they work together with the developers, they work together with the business side. And they make these design decisions together with this team. That's the more important thing, I think. Because in the centralized model, the design decisions are not made with the team. It's like in the centralized model, the developers are not involved in the design decision-making process. The business owners are not part of the design decision-making process. This decentralized model involves an open space for everyone. So everyone is on the same page, because in the centralized model, like I said, there's always this friction between the teams. There's friction between the business side, there's friction with the development side. Everyone is always complaining about the other team. So this decentralized way of working, let's say, like ends these frictions and make sure that everyone is on the same page. Because like let's give an example. We are all working on the search functionality, and the design team is making a research about it, and they find that the users are having problem. And in these type of working methods, the developers are also involved in this user research. So they see the results themselves. They know what the problem is. So they're all convinced at the beginning of, let's say, start of this project. Yeah, we have this problem from our users, so let's solve it together. So it creates kind of this collaboration environment, rather than designers finding a problem and convincing everybody that this is a problem that we need to solve. I don't know if I'm being clear, but in the organization level, it's all the same in the end.
I'm kind of noticing that, especially in your earlier experience in a
good old days.
Centralized model. It seems like, it kind of feels like, I'm just giving more reference to one of the classes as well. They try to adapt a new product development model where they assign certain responsibilities to certain teams which do not interact. So this is for students. This refers back to the design processes week in the new product development, where there are 3 pillars of marketing, design, and engineering, and they are strictly separated. But I mean, as you say, I mean, the model is the same. There are design managers and everything, but the key to it is, I guess, collaboration, how people actually interact.
Offering, and it only happens in the way of working. Also, the marketing should be on the same page. Like everyone working on this function or on this service should be on the same page and should say the same thing and should have the same motivation. That's why we are liking Apple products so much, because from the moment you step into a store, from the moment you buy something, from this box design, the way boxes, even like stuff is put inside the box, they're all serving to offer you this exclusive brand experience, and then you get the product at hand, you get the MacBook at hand. They're all offering you the same experience, because everyone in the Apple team is trying to offer this exclusive experience to their users. So they're all working for the same goal. That is why you are so amazed by it.
So in the
I don't want to give the Apple example, but I was forced.
Yeah, well, we have to. We are forced to. You can never skip it. You're right, actually. I mean, at the strategic level, the recognition of the role of design in that sense is quite crucial to actually lead all these separate actors into a more unified goal, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, because the design methods that we are learning from even the first year in the college is all about understanding all the factors about a design problem, understanding all the actors around it, and offer a solution. So this is the way we think. And now service design is saying that, you need to apply this way of thinking to business as well. That is how we're going to solve problems. That is how we're going to achieve something as a business. This designer way of thinking. That is why everyone is talking about design thinking, which is not, yeah, that's a whole other discussion, but yeah,
Okay.
that's why it's
that is a
so
discussion
popular.
when we stop recording. Also.
I don't want to say any bad words about design thinking.
Yeah, all right, all right.
But yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? This is your last chance. Okay. Also, thank you very much. This was a really good, I think, very inspirational presentation for soon-to-be designers, such as
Thank
our
you for
audience
inviting
today.
me.
Thank you for all the work, good work. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for inviting me. Very nice to meet you all, and good luck with your professional life, I guess.
Thank you, Aslı, and good luck with your work.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hope I see some of you next week, by the way, when I come visit you.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see each other. Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.